Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Howard Morrison, and welcome to the use of student progress monitoring and reporting for kindergarten and beginning of year assessment. I'd like to welcome you all, and I just wanted to say hi to everyone that's out there today. So we're going to go ahead and get started here, and then we'll allow for questions at the end of the presentation, and then we'll respond to any of those that we cannot. So give me just one moment here. All right. So again, welcome to our presentation this afternoon. My name is Howard Morrison. I'm the statewide coordinator for early childhood education. The webinar is going to provide information on the importance of pre-kindergarten and kindergarten program and assessment data, the use of student progress monitoring data, and the reporting requirements for beginning of year kindergarten and the early childhood data system. As I had mentioned previously, everyone is automatically muted. However, please feel free to type in questions within the chat box or the question box, whatever is more convenient. There's some questions at the end, and then the rest will be responded to either after individually. This will be recorded and will be posted as well to our website on our educator resources page within a few days or so. All right, so the objectives for today is to have a better understanding of the importance of student progress monitoring data, to learn about the use of student progress monitoring, to discover action steps for data use, to know what and when to report beginning of year kindergarten data, and to learn about the available support for beginning of year kindergarten collection, and to learn about the available ECE data. So as I had mentioned, the agenda is going to discuss the importance of the data collection, use of student progress monitoring and instruction, the action steps for data use, the reporting beginning of year kindergarten data, the support for beginning of year kindergarten data submission, and the available ECE data. So let's start with the importance of the data collection. So when we're thinking about data collection and looking at the big picture, we want to enhance the ability to efficiently and accurately manage, analyze, and use education data, to help districts, schools, educators, and other stakeholders to make data-informed decisions, and to improve student learning outcomes, as well as facilitating research to increase student achievement and close the achievement gaps. This assists with decision-making at the regional and state level. Additionally, it provides valuable information to our early childhood education organizations across the state, our researchers, our decision makers, and ultimately the Texas legislature. So when we think about the importance of data collection at the school level, we look at collecting pre-K progress monitoring data for many reasons, but a few are to evaluate academic growth, to assist families, educators, administrators, community stakeholders, and policymakers with identification of strengths and opportunities, to inform resource prioritization, classroom instruction, and development of action plans. This all would revolve around core content areas of health and wellness, language and communication, emergent literacy reading, emergent literacy writing, and mathematics. So the state does have a commissioner-approved pre-kindergarten assessment instruments list. This list was established for 2017 through 2021. This does include the instruments that are listed here. All of these items are collected within the early childhood data system, And we collect all these assessments for emergent literacy reading, writing, language and communication, health and wellness, and mathematics. So we're going to do a quick poll. So if everyone would either use their desktop that they're at, or if it's more convenient to use their smartphone, we can use that as well. It's www.slido.com, and the event number is 7076. So the question will be, which pre-kindergarten assessment tool do you use? And just 1 second while I pull that up. Okay, so we've got our results starting to come in. Right now we're seeing a majority with the circle CLI. We've got a few with iStation, a few using other. Some using Frog Street, some using Gold. And we'll give a few more seconds here. All right, looks like we're staying steady here, so we can probably go ahead and lock the poll. So we've got approximately 85% using Circle, 15% using iStation, 15% using Other, about 8% using Frog Street, 8% using Gold. To round out those results, let's see if we have any that are scrolled below. No, okay. All right. Oops. So let's talk about the use of student progress monitoring. So we'll start by talking about using data as a continuous process. Using data for individualization of teaching practices is an ongoing multi-step process that involves preparing and planning to engage in a process of data collection and use. This cycle is continuous progression that begins with preparing to engage in a process of data use to support individualization. The next stage of the cycle involves collecting data from multiple sources. This could be student progress monitoring, ongoing classroom observations, family information, etc. The third activity or action would be aggregating and analyzing the data. And then the final step involves using and sharing data to inform teaching practices. So using student progress monitoring to inform instruction. Student progress monitoring data is reviewed. Teachers reflect on what the data is telling me. Where my students are progressing well? Do my students need more instruction or more practice? Which students need targeted one-on-one instruction? Which students have similar needs for small group instruction? And what teaching practices should I alter? But then also thinking about what does each individual child need? Are they progressing as one might expect? In what developmental domain, concept, and/or skill do students need more instruction or more practice? Which students have similar needs and should be grouped together for instruction? And do specific students need more one-on-one instruction? So let's talk about the importance of using data for individualization. Research suggests that using data to inform teaching practices can lead to improved child outcomes across developmental domains. This can result in early identification of intervention needs, improved teacher decision-making, improved teacher effectiveness, increased gains in child outcomes. So if you're administering a beginning of year assessment, you're going to be ultimately making decisions sooner. You can then plan and adjust based on those identified needs. This will allow for students and programs to ultimately improve and hopefully will lead to enhanced campus and district planning. So based on that information, we're going to go back to our Slido poll. And so, are you using data as a continuous process? If there are any that have not entered in there, feel free to begin entering that. We've got agree, strongly agree, neutral, strongly disagree, and disagree. So we'll just allow a minute here for people to get that keyed in. All right, we'll lock that poll. We've got 45% stating that they're using data as a continuous process, 36 stating that they're using it as a continuous process, about 18% that are neutral, and that's great that we don't have any that are strongly disagree or disagree. So let's continue that question. So what are your barriers for using data as a continuous process? Are there any things that are restricting that within your school, your district, your region? Just in general, what are the barriers? You should be able to just type that in. This would be just an open text. All right, I see some starting to come in. Great, so it looks like some of the information that's kind of riding to the middle. Would be time, data, the district. Looks like we've kind of got software, teachers. So it looks like really what's rising to the middle there of this is time, but we'll go ahead and lock that. And look at that word cloud. Like I said, it looks like maybe not having enough data, or access to the data, not having enough time, certainly are things that might lead to not being able to use data as a continuous process. All right, so that does lead us into factors that impact individualization. So the factors that influence educators' abilities to use student-level data to individualize their teaching practices include availability of support. This could be at the local, district, or region level, and may include support from coordinators, mentors, or administrators. The availability of resources, so this really goes to funding or allotted time, which is one of the common threads that we saw in that previous word cloud. Could be policy requirements, and this could be at the local, state, or federal level. Could be educator knowledge about and attitudes towards data. Are they comfortable with the data? Do you see the data as being useful and beneficial to your program? Also, the engagement of families. This may include having the ability to have an open dialogue with parents to continue the positive progression in and out of the classroom. So let's talk about the availability of support and resources. When we look at support, we're talking about targeted professional development or information on evidence-based instructional strategy. Ultimately, this would be built into ongoing training. When we're looking at leadership support, leaders should encourage data use, data meetings, and incorporate into trainings as much as possible. When we look at data teams, educational staff, and coaches, this would help facilitate those data meetings, enhance vertical alignment, and ultimately would be embedded into trainings and professional developments as an ongoing practice. When we look at technical support, this could be support with data submission and accuracy, training on implementation, training on tools and available reports. When we look at resources, time, as we had seen before, are you making time to collect, review, and analyze and share the data? Is that supported within your community, within your school, within your district? Also, funding. Is there local funding allocated to support the work of using data, which the results would be in continuous improvement? When we're looking at technical resources, some of these resources should be embedded within the district regional support plan to ensure that teachers, coordinators, administrators are supported in these IT resources. So let's go on to our next section for action steps for data use. We're going to start with educators. So educators may consider examining the data available. Are you looking at the 5 academics domains? Are you reviewing kindergarten readiness data? Are you using data to understand strengths and challenges? This would also include within the 5 academic subject areas, as well as the kindergarten readiness data. Implementing various stages to target individualization teaching practices. Are you leveraging the support and resources you need to individualize teaching practices? And asking for support and using data for individualization. Are you reaching out to the district, to your regional leaders to support you in that work? When we look at coaches and mentors, coordinators and coaches may consider whether educators need additional or specific support. This could be in specific academic subject areas, teaching strategies. When we're looking at working with educators to analyze and interpret data, this should be embedded as part of your professional development and training. When we talk about supporting educators to use data to individualize teaching practices, this should be or become to be part of the day-to-day, a common practice. And when we're using data to tailor instructional strategies, this should be included in the mentoring of teachers as a common practice. When we're looking at administrators, administrators may consider the culture of data use. Is the data use supported and positively used to drive instruction and improvement? The knowledge and staff, and the knowledge and attitude of staff, are the staff appropriately trained to administer the assessments and how to use the available reports and resources? The alignment between program goals, school readiness goals, the pre-kindergarten guidelines, the assessment tool and curriculum. Cohesively as a campus or a district, are you reviewing your program goals and adjusting those goals as necessary? And we talk about the amount and support and training provided. Is there an ample amount of time dedicated to this area? Is this consistently being used within your instructional planning time? So let's transition to our reporting beginning of year kindergarten data within the early childhood data system. So the value of collecting beginning of year kindergarten data is to inform classroom instruction. This will give you a snapshot of where the child is at this point in time. To target instruction for pre-kindergarten classroom, this gives the ability to use information in vertical alignment meetings with the pre-kindergarten program. To develop action plans. This could be local plans for continuous improvement within the campus and district. To provide information to develop statewide support. Since this information is submitted to the state, we're able to aggregate that for a statewide perspective review and support and make that available publicly. So as we're submitting data, this would fall within the early childhood data system. So this does collect pre-kindergarten and kindergarten data, so the progress monitoring data and other data elements, as well as kindergarten. So the purpose of ECDS is to better inform families, school administrators, educators, community stakeholders about pre-kindergarten programs and preparing children for success in kindergarten. Ultimately, this is a statewide reporting feature of the Texas Student Data System, including both pre-K and kindergarten data. So we're going to do a quick Slido poll again. All right, and so our question being, are school districts and open enrollment charter schools required to submit beginning of year reading assessment data? So this would be to the state within the ECDS platform. So please respond either yes, no, or unsure. The new number would be 9043. This would be a separate event code. All right, so we're going to lock that poll 100% on yes, which is 100% correct. So good work and everyone getting that accurate. All right, so within the early childhood data system, we collect beginning of year kindergarten data. This includes student demographics, special program information, classroom link on the students enrolled, the beginning of year assessment data. This includes emergent literacy reading, emergent literacy writing, language and communication, health and wellness, and mathematics. You will see that the emergent literacy reading is required, and that is in statute. The other 4 domains would be strongly encouraged to administer as well as submitting to the agency. So we collect a variety of commissioner-approved assessment instruments within ECDS. You'll see AIMSweb, BASC, DESA, Dial4, DIBBLES, iStation, Lion, MAP, Ready Set K, Start Early Literacy, TPEIR and Tejas Lay, TextKia, and Work Sampling System. So let's talk about the kindergarten assessment collection timeline. This is a change from the previous school year. The collection timeline now opens Monday, October 22nd, and is available through Thursday, January 31st of 2019. This really is a key point. As last year, that kindergarten collection ran through mid-July. So this is moving the date up quite a few months sooner. Ultimately, since kindergarten data is only collected at the beginning of year, this allows us to break up the pre-kindergarten and kindergarten data collection a little bit, but it also allows us to get access to that beginning of year kindergarten data sooner. So when we're looking at providing public-facing reports, which you'll see later in the presentation, this allows us to generate those reports sooner. It allows us to provide reports to legislature sooner and policymakers, but also the results back to our regional education service centers, districts, and campus personnel. We recently released a to the administrator address letter delineating the public pre-K program requirements, the high quality expectations in the public kindergarten data elements, as well as the voluntary private pre-K. If an LEA is using a non-commissioner approved pre-kindergarten or kindergarten assessment instrument, they should notify TA of its choice of assessment by completing the alternate assessment form. Districts and open enrollment charters must retain their assessment data locally should TA decide to collect it at a later date. I will note that the alternate assessment form is different, or is a new form for districts and charters to complete. Previously, this had been just a general email to either myself, or within the ECDS inbox. This will allow us to streamline and organize the data in a more efficient, and we are able to combine that with our reports in an easier manner to make sure that we're collecting the data accurately from everyone that's submitting that information. Available support for beginning of year kindergarten assessment data in ECDS. So the Texas Student Data System has its core collections. This is the Texas Education Data Standards. Section 10 is a section that specifically talks about the early childhood data system. It does include public pre-kindergarten information, kindergarten information, some high quality information, and then private pre-K information. The link there is a direct link to the 1819 core collections for the collection this year. So each regional education service center has a champion. Those champions range from an executive sponsor, a PEIMS champion, a dashboard champion, a unique ID champion, a TEAL, and an ECDS champion. All of these play a pertinent role in the data submission process. Those program folks that are in the program side of early childhood should really coordinate with their PEIMS, TEAL, and ECDS champion as they're submitting and working on data collection and reporting. Often the program information or program side may have information that the PEIMS or ECDS champion needs and vice versa. So it's really important for those individuals to have open to ensure that they're submitting the data early and as soon as possible, so we aren't submitting the data the last week of the collection period. That allows us to be able to provide assistance from a technical assistance standpoint as well, ensure that the data is submitted and completed without any errors. So we have a new ECDS pre-KK assessment specifications. This previously was only available within the knowledge-based articles within the TEAL system. Ultimately, we wanted this as an external public-facing document so anyone could access it. So this is available to vendors, ESC staff, districts, charters, without having to go through the TEAL process. So this will delineate the pre-K assessments from the commissioner's list. It'll include the assessment title, the assessment code, the academic subject, the scoring. So that would be the range of the scores, the benchmarks of those scores that the vendors provide us, and any specific vendor notes that may be important in the data submission process. So that link is embedded within the presentation, but it is titled Assessment Specifications. This is something that's updated annually, and this was the first year that it is published, but it is available currently. So let's talk about the available data within ECE. So we have fairly new public-facing reports. They're in our TPEIR system. So we have pre-kindergarten programs. This is enrollment for 3- and 4-year-olds across the state, available at the state level, district and charter, campus, as well as the data download. We do have kindergarten program enrollment and kindergarten readiness reports. This is available at the state, district, charter, campus, and data download. They're currently available for 3 cohort of years, 14-15, 15-16, and 16-17. We hope to release the 17-18 before the end of the year, so we can have those as soon as possible heading into 2019. This is just a screenshot of the pre-kindergarten program in enrollment for ages 3 and 4. If you have not seen these, please check them out for the state level as well as for your own district. This can certainly help as you're doing planning for throughout the school year, looking at the population of districts, population at the state level and your regional level, and give an insight as some of the statewide information. We're looking at number of students enrolled. You can see a half-day, full-day, broken out by age range, broken out by the type of curriculum, then also our newly added class size and ratios. So really interesting data here. So if you have not seen these, I do suggest you accessing these and using them within your programs. We've also got a snapshot of the kindergarten readiness data. So this is again at the state level, looking at kindergarten enrollment for 16-17 school year, total students. Then we're also providing kindergarten readiness for all kindergarteners, and then also for those kindergarteners that attended public pre-K for 80 or more days. We've also got a breakout of the kindergarten readiness by race, ethnicity, and subpopulation. I also will note this is just one page of the report, and same as with the pre-kindergarten one. There's probably about 8 to 11 pages, depending on which one, that will break out into additional information. For the kindergarten readiness, you can also get it broken out by assessment instrument. And as I said, these were all available at the state, district, and campus level, as well as that data download. So some of the key takeaways for today, the importance of data collection, the use of student progress monitoring and instruction, action steps for data use, the reporting of BOI kindergarten data, available support for beginning of year kindergarten data, and publicly available kindergarten data. We've included the resources. So this is the most recent Early Childhood Data System TEA correspondence. This was just released this past Friday. So if you have not seen that correspondence letter, be sure to check that out. You can also access it via our homepage under TEA correspondence. And this does include the link to the section 10 of the core collections, our TSDS champions, our own early childhood data system program page, and then our educator resources where all of our upcoming webinars are posted, as well as our archived recorded ones. So that brings us to the end of our presentation, and we can certainly open it up for some questions. Well, we have a few minutes left within the allotted time. So if you would ask any questions within the questions box, you should be able to see that within your GoToMeeting icon. Okay, so it looks like we have one question here. Let me try to make it a little larger. So the question we have here is, if a student is not assessed, is there a score that should be entered? I've been entering negative 999. Sure, so that's a really good question. And since we did have so many questions on that last year, we are including multiple scenarios of when a negative 999 should be entered and should not be entered. So essentially, if the student was enrolled in the program and was administered one or more of the domains, but were not administered, the remaining, then a negative 999 would be entered. If they were enrolled but then unenrolled prior to the assessment happening, then a negative 999 would not need to be entered. But as I mentioned, and I can certainly follow up in an email, we did create a table within the assessment specifications that does delineate the negative 999 and when that should be used within the collection or within the submission. Any more questions in the question box? I think we've got a few more minutes here. If not, we'll go ahead and wrap it up, or if you feel free to always email us afterwards if you think of a question that came to you after the webinar. So feel free to keep typing in questions, but do know this is our Early Childhood Education Division. You've got our director, Jackie Porter, our managers, Scott and Selena, and then program specialists and directors at the bottom there. So you can certainly contact myself, Howard Morrison, with any questions. After this webinar is complete, you should be receiving a survey, a follow-up survey within the next hour regarding the presentation. If you wouldn't mind just completing that and submitting that back to us as soon as possible. Ultimately, that will close within a week, but it should be within an hour. So thank you for your time today and joining the webinar. Have a great afternoon and the rest of your week.